Hello, today we're going to learn how to do quilling, and these are examples of quilling. Quilling is basically the art of coiling little pieces of paper around and sticking them down to make pictures. So you could do some larger ones or some smaller, more intricate ones. And Pinterest and the internet is full of pictures of quilling things. You can do the Mona Lisa, or you can just do a couple of things together. I'm going to show you a basic one today, and then the world is your quilling oyster. Now you can buy quilling kits like this kind of thing, and I actually have had this since I was about 14, so you can have it, and they come with this little gadget, and the gadget basically has a little device at the end that has a slit in for you to put things in. Now you can use that, and it will also come with a lot of pre-cut paper strips. Like, I should just bring that whole pile over like this. You can see what we've got here. You can also buy the paper on its own on the internet, but none of that stuff is necessary. We'll make it a little bit easier if you've got those, but it isn't necessary. And I'm going to show you how to do it with just a few items. It is a little bit easier, and if you want to get into quilling, a kit is a good thing, but you don't need it. I'm going to show you how to do it without. Okay, so tomorrow night at the zoo, I am going to show you how to do the flamingo card. But first of all, we are just going to do a basic flower. And we're going to make a little bunch of flowers on a card like that, pictures or cards. And what you need for that is some paper. So either the pre-cut strips you can buy on the internet or some paper, and the paper needs to be thin. So you're talking about the kind of weight of ordinary A4 paper, not that thick craft paper. You want some thin paper. A magazine, some sort of junk mail, that thin paper that will coil around, that is fine. You need to have some scissors so that you can cut that, and you need PVA glue this time. If you've only got glue stick, that's okay, you can use that. It's going to be a little bit harder. I'm going to show you the one. Now, I find it really useful to have a cocktail stick for this, for gluing with, because your cans can get a little bit gluey with this little fiddly one. You know, improvise if it's not exactly a cocktail stick, something that you can glue with. If you have these proper glue sticks, they might work. Cocktail stick is my one. You might need a pencil, and you need something to stick it on. So these are those pre-made cards again that you can stick it on. Okay, now for your twirling thing, if you don't have the actual quilling tool, what you can do is use a needle. Now I would recommend that you would get yourself a selection of needles with different sized eyes. It doesn't matter whether it's a tapestry needle or an embroidery needle, because we're not using the sharp end, we're going to use the eye. So just get yourself a little selection of paper and a selection of needles with different eyes. And with your paper, you need to cut it into the thinnest strip you can. This one is actually 2mm wide. You need to cut the best you can then. So I'm going to get my piece of paper. Now, it's going to be quite long if it's there, so I'm going to do this, and I'm going to cut the thinnest shape, the thinnest width that I can. So I'm getting that. Now again, massive accuracy, loads and loads of measuring. You do that if that's your thing, not my thing. I'm going to do it like that. And you're going to end up with, you need quite a few strips. So cut yourself a few strips. And if you're going to be doing anything that you want to resemble flowers, then you're going to need a few leafy shapes. So you need to make sure you have got some strips out of some kind of green paper. If you are reusing a magazine, I would look through and find those brightly coloured adverts, because they're the ones that might have those colours. I tried with one of these as well, and it gave another interesting sort of little thing. But what you need is some strips of paper, and you need a selection of little needles so that you can see what to do. Now, you might need to pause there, go and collect all of those things. Put your PVA into a little pot. You can see we're not going to use very much. You don't need a pint of PVA glue. Tiny bit in the bottom is all you're doing, and something to spread it with, so you've got them there. Now, if you have a quilling tool, you will be putting your piece of paper in between the two little slots. And I realise that you won't be able to see that. It's also not going in here, actually. You won't be able to see that, so give me a minute. If I just bring it up a bit closer, you can see perhaps there, that it's going in like that. And you don't want it sticking out like that, you want it right at the end like that. And then you are going to twirl that around and end up with a coil. Can you see that I'm doing that? I'm going to do it big, 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 so you can see. But what I'm doing is coiling it. Look at my other hand. My left hand is holding it. My left hand is holding it as it goes around. That's going down, and now it's ended up coiled around the end, and now I'm going to let go. It's going to come off, and when I remove it, you've ended up with this. I'm bringing it closer so that you can have a look. That would be if you had this proper quilling thing. If you don't, you're going to get your needle and you're going to get your piece of paper. This time I'm going to use a pink one because I'm going to show you how to make a rose. So this is what we're going to start with. That was just a practice one. What you're going to say to me is that this is fiddly. It is fiddly. This is a fiddly craft. And I told you I got one when I was 14. So I've been doing this a long time, and I spent the other day spending all day fiddling around with this. A bit like crochet or knitting, it's all in the tension. Too tight won't work. Too loose won't work. You need to have a practice, and you will need to have a whole pile of little coils all around you for you to practice before you start to stick any down. So you're going to get your needle and you're going to put your piece of paper into the eye. Okay, so it's going like that. So it's now inside, it isn't because I haven't done it properly there, inside the eye like that. So you can see that that's what I've done. I've got my piece of paper inside the eye, and I want it right on the end. What you want is as little as possible. Your needle as near to the end as possible, so the littlest amount sticking out that you can possibly imagine. Okay, my fingers are in there. And then you're going to coil it around. Now, it is a little bit more awkward if you're starting this off without the proper tool. Okay, have some patience. You can do it. Don't give up. Don't throw this down and say, I can't do this. Give it patience. Give it a little try. It's fiddly, but it's great. And also, this is all it is. There's no more to learn other than this. So practice this bit. What you're doing is coiling it up, okay? So you can see how that started there. It might ping off. You might have it too tight. You might have it too slack. You might be twirling more with this finger, or you might be twirling more with your needle. But whatever happens, you are twirling it around until you end up with the whole thing coiled up. Okay? Now you might think you've got a piece of paper that's too long, and you might think, oh, I've got that. Okay, right, I'm bored of it now. I'm not going to do any more curling. I'm going to chuck that. And that's as far as I've got. Okay? Now, when you take your needle out, so that's entirely coiled up now. If I just try and remove my fingers a little bit to show you, that's coiled up. Now, when you take it off, you need to just do it really carefully. It might, like that one, have already pinged off the end a little bit, and that's fine. Do it carefully and then let it uncoil. And it'll uncoil itself a little bit, and you'll end up, I'm going to put this against the piece of paper so that you can see. It'll end up just uncoiled a little bit like that. If I show you one of the ones on here, you're basically making this. This one's stuck down, which means I can pick it up a bit more efficiently for you. So you've got that like that, where it's coiled around, okay? So it's undoing. Now, if you haven't got any of these things, you haven't got a needle or anything like that, what you can also do to make a simpler one with this one and this one is you can use a pencil for that same thing. So this time, I can't be doing with all that little fiddliness. I'm going to give myself a 1 centimetre strip. And you can see I'm just guessing that 1 centimetre there because that's what I do. I've got myself a bigger strip and I've got myself a pencil and I'm going to coil it around. And this is where you might be able to see more efficiently what I'm doing. So I've got it down there, I'm trapping that end bit, and then I'm just carefully rolling it up with a pencil. So if you can't find anything else, you can roll it with a pencil. Just make sure you've got a circular pencil and not one of those sort of hexagonal ones. But going around like that, so it's coiled on perfectly, and then removing your pencil. Now these are not going to have the traditional delicate coiling thing that you get from quilling, but it helps you to practice at the beginning, and it also still gives you a perfectly good shape. I'll show you how to do the heart shape in a little bit, but these ones were just circular ones that were done with a pencil. So you'll notice I haven't let go of it yet, and that's so that you can see when I let go, it's coiling around like that, but it stays coiled. You don't have to worry that it's just going to ping off and go back to being a flat piece of paper. Actually, it coils around like that. Now, I'm going to get a little bit of PVA glue, and what I'm doing is dipping the end of my cocktail stick so that it just has a little bit of glue on there, and I'm going to uncoil the very end. Some quilling tutorials that I have seen on the internet will tell you to glue at the beginning of this, and I don't like that. I think if you glue that, the other end, and then you put it on your pencil or your quilling tool or your needle, it gets stuck. It gets stuck on the end and you can't get it off. So I only do this end, okay? This is my tip for you. I only do that end that you just got out. Just hold it a minute. Now with the pencil one, you've ended up just with a circle, like that, which is that cat's head. Okay, so you've got it like that cat's head. But you could have a little practice with the pencil one first. If you wanted to make this into a heart shape, you are simply poking the middle bit down to make the V at the top of the heart and pinching it. You're pinching the end to give it a heart shape, and you would end up with that. Okay, that's what we've got on this one, where you've got a coiled heart like that, and it springs around with a different amount in the middle. So you've got it like that, and that's what you can do. And if you want to practice with a pencil first because it's all a bit bigger, you can do that. But when you get your tiny one, you remember the rose that I made just a moment ago like that? I'm going to do the same thing. I need to get a tiny bit of glue, and that's why I find the cocktail stick helps. I'm actually a big fan of cocktail sticks. I don't remember ever using one in a cocktail, but I remember one constantly being used in craft. I've mentioned before that I'm a doll's house miniature maker as well in another life, and cocktail sticks are endlessly useful during the miniature world. So I've stuck that together like that, and I've got myself a little circle. Okay, now I'm going to pause the video there because I'm going to change the angle of the camera so that you can see as I'm sticking it down. We're going to make a bunch of flowers, but you need to be looking down on top of it. So I'm going to pause there and then come back when you can look downwards. Okay, so hopefully now you're looking down on it, and I'm just going to show you again. You've got the needle going in, and then you are coiling it around. Oh, it's just jumped off that one. Needle going in and then coiling around, and you will keep coiling like that. If you can see, I'm turning it around using my fingers. It is fiddly. I'm bored there. I'm going to cut it off. I'm turning it round, I'm taking that off, and I've got this end bit. I'm going to put a little bit of glue on this end bit, and then I'm going to stick it down, and I've ended up with that tiny little coil like that. Now I've made lots of these coils all together here of different colours. That was the one that I made earlier. Some of them have slackened off a bit with the tension. This was the little heart-shaped paper that's a little bit stiffer, so it's given a different middle, and you've got all of these different things, and they are your roses, and we're going to stick those down now to make them in. So again, I've got my little bit of PVA in the bottom there, and I'm using my cocktail stick, and I'm putting down a bit there. Now you probably want to assemble your picture first before you decide what to do. So I'm going to just stick one down, and then I'm going to think, right, what am I going to do? Let's move these around so that I've got a bunch of flowers, and I don't want too many of the same type together. So we might you could follow that 3-5 thing about having bunches of 3s or bunches of 5s if you want to, or you can just put them in where you want them. I'm going to put one over there. So mess about until you get a vaguely rosetti type of thing, and when you're happy with it, you can put your glue. Now I think you need to put your glue on, I'll just push those out of the way so that you can see what I'm doing, on the card, and then drop that on top. And this is one of the reasons why I told you to use PVA glue, because PVA glue dries clear. So it doesn't matter that you are not putting it exactly on just the roses themselves. You know that a bit has gone on the side there because it will dry clear. You don't want loads all over the place. Don't be sloppy. This is a careful craft. But it doesn't matter if you are getting a bit spread out, because that's what PVA is all about. The fact that it dries clear. You know, like if you're using varnish or something like that. So we're sticking these around, and all of these are roses. They're all the same type and they're all coiled. I think I'll just put a little bit more there. And you have got yourself a little bunch of roses there. But really, to have our bunch of flowers, if I just get you the other one, we also need a few leaves and we need a few stalks. The stalk is as simple as you get that, cut it off, and then put a little line of glue like that, if you saw what I was doing, and stand that on. Now you do need some patience with that because you need to leave it to dry now before you fiddle. And honestly, if you can't be bothered, just draw a stalk on with a pen. To make a leaf, you do exactly the same thing with your coil, but then you pinch it at one end. Can you see that I've pinched that? It was a circular shape like we made, and I just took it between my fingers and pinched it, and it ended up as a leaf shape. And then you just poke a few leaves in wherever you want your leaves to be. And that will give you that little bit of a leaf just sticking out. Now, one of the things to do with leaves is only use a very short amount. Do you know when I said I'm bored of that and I flicked it off? Use these little short bits to make leaves. Keep experimenting with the length of your paper. Keep experimenting with the different amounts that you can get so that you can end up with a few leaves just sticking out. This one's a super tiny leaf that I have made that I'm going to put right at the bottom, that's made out of just like one little coil like that. Okay, excellent. And then you've just got this here. You can stick a few more if you wanted to have a more, you know, 3 stems, 3 stalks. You can stick that in there, little bits of glue. So you've got that like that. And you end up with that really nice little coiled, I think that looks like it needs another one because it's not circular. So I'm going to put another one in. Get all your coils, and then you end up with your lovely bunch of flowers. There are a few more shapes that you can do. You can pinch it at both ends and you end up with an eye shape. You can pinch it and twist it and you end up with what they call an eye shape. Poke it down in the middle for a heart shape, but they're all basically the same thing. That little coil you made glued down. This is fiddly and you do need to practice. You can make a centre of a flower by making a tighter little coil, but all of those are the different ways. Try the rose first and then you can practice the other ones later. And join me at the Zoom tomorrow and we can do the flamingos. I hope you really enjoy that craft and I will see you again soon.